This is Judge Joe Brown, and we're listening to We All Be News, news-free Dixie for the 21st century.
Welcome, boys and girls, scholars and laymen, to another wonderful edutainment, infotainment, empowerment edition of The Artivist Thinks. And today's date is very important to remember. Today's date, December 4th, 2015, marks the 46th anniversary of the assassination, the crucifixion of Chairman Fred Hampton Sr. of the Black Panther Party of Illinois in Chicago. In the wee hours of the morning on December 4th, 1969, Chairman Fred Hampton Sr., only 21 years old, was assassinated in his sleep, in his bed, by the Chicago Police Department on the orders of the State Attorney Office of Illinois under the auspices of J. Edgar Hoover's FBI. Once again, Chairman Fred Hampton Sr., 21 years old, sleeping in his bed next to his pregnant fiancée, who will have his son and namesake, Fred Hampton Jr., December 29th, 1969, was assassinated, crucified by the state, by the FBI, by the State Attorney's Office, and the Chicago Mayor's Office, as well as the Chicago Police Department. Why did they kill a 21-year-old man sleeping next to his pregnant fiancée in his home in the wee hours of the morning? The police, or State Attorney Edward Hanrahan, claimed that it was a shootout between the Panthers and the police. In reality, it was a shoot-in. The only shot that was given off was by Mark Clark, and that was in response of getting hit in the chest. He fired a round off as a reaction. And a bigger reaction was caused with the Chicago Police Department basically was shooting that apartment until they filled it with holes like Swiss cheese. Understand? And it's a miracle that nobody else got killed in the apartment. William O'Neill. From our understanding, it was William O'Neill, Fred Hampton's chief bodyguard, who was an FBI informant who gave the FBI, or his FBI handler, the blueprint to the apartment where Fred Hampton was staying. He actually helped prepare Fred Hampton's last meal. And people have reasoned that he might have put something in his Kool-Aid. Yeah, I went there. And it caused Chairman Fred to be sleepier than usual. So he wasn't able to wake up when they came in shooting into his apartment. So that was by design. So once again, let me tell you this. Fred Hampton, chief bodyguard, William O'Neill, was an FBI informant who gave the blueprints to his FBI handler of the apartment, okay? And we all know that Malcolm X's chief bodyguard, Eugene Roberts, was undercover police, NYPD, part of their COINTEL program, BOSSI. So they doing the same thing all the time. It's just the same old song, y'all. All around the world, the same song. So note that, all right? William O'Neill, Fred Hampton's chief bodyguard, compromised, FBI informant. So, like I said before, Edward Hanrahan held a press conference stating that it was a shootout between the Panthers and the police, and that Chairman Fred was dead. Freddy's dead. But you know how the universal God works. So the Panthers allowed the community to see the apartment for themselves. As one elder sister, she said it was just a northern lynching. She said that what they did to Fred Hampton and Mark Clark was a northern lynching. And Fred Hampton, who was this brother? You know, Fred Hampton Sr. was one of the most brilliant and charismatic lights of the entire 1960s. Chairman Fred Hampton Sr. was not a good old dude. He's not come from the ghetto, okay? He actually was from Maywood, Illinois, outside of Chicago, all right? A 2-parent household. Fred Hampton was unusually bright. Before he got involved with the Black Panther Party, he was involved with the NAACP Youth Council. He actually was able to organize a couple hundred kids into the NAACP Youth Council. He was so effective at community organizing that the FBI had files on Chairman Fred when he was just 14 or 15 years old. The reason why I bring up, he was around 14 or 15 when they started following Chairman Fred. The FBI was. So they already knew who he was before a lot of us knew who he was. And even 46 years ago, or 46 years later, a lot of us still don't have a clue of who Chairman Fred really was. So the FBI already knew they was dealing with some type of special person. A special type of agitator, a special type of revolutionary. And I want to tell y'all this so y'all can understand how powerful history is. Chairman Fred's mom used to babysit Emmett Till. Let me say that one more time. Chairman Fred's mom used to babysit Emmett Till. So he grew up next door to the Till family. Chairman Fred. So it's this tragic, ironic. It's like, wow, you can't make this stuff up. Black history is so powerful. Black history is more powerful than Hollywood fiction. Because it's the truth, and the truth is so unbelievable. Okay? So, Chairman Fred was being watched by the feds when he was in his middle teenage years. He also was around when Dr. King came up, trying to challenge the housing conditions in Chicago. And Dr. King was very impressed by Chairman Fred. He was very taken aback by this young brother. In fact, he was taken aback by a couple young brothers. I remember reading somewhere where he said, he'll trade 5,000 ministers for 50 street guys. That's how impressed he was with young people coming up like Chairman Fred, because this is the latter part of the 60s. This is the Black Power era. Stokely Carmichael, Kwame Ture coined the phrase Black Power down in Greenwood back in, I believe, 66, not mistaken, and it took out like a rocket ship, okay? And so Chairman Fred was already on the radar around the time he was 15 years old, just dealing with the NAACP, and it actually was effective in organizing in Maywood, Illinois, that they actually integrated the swimming pool, the public swimming pool facility down in Maywood. And I believe it's named after him now, and there's a statue of his likeness at the swimming pool, if I'm not mistaken. So why was Chairman Fred a threat to the state? Well, J. Edgar Hoover said that the Black Panther Party represented an internal security threat. Why? Well, because they fed kids before school. The Black Panther Party originated the breakfast programs at the schools. See, a lot of things the Black Panther Party did, the government claimed as their own. You understand? A lot of things the Black Panther Party, before they were about the guns and berets and leather jackets, they're about the knowledge. They're about the community service. Look at their 10 points program. That program or platform, or why were they founded? You look at the 10 reasons that they were founded for, what they demanded for the people. Those things can apply to any group or race of people in this country, because the black struggle is very universal. See, whatever black folks get from their struggle benefits everybody else. See, they use black people as the guinea pigs, the laboratory rats, but whatever we get through our struggle, everybody else benefits from. Like affirmative action. You listen to crackers and white supremacists, they always talking about when you niggas getting this free ride called affirmative action. No. All affirmative action is white privilege and blackface, because the biggest beneficiaries of affirmative action are white women. Let me say once again, the biggest beneficiaries of affirmative action are white women. But they use white women in the court of law to sue against affirmative action. This is how tricky these devils are. This is how tricky this system is. They play psyops programs and wordplay and double talk, and they write it into the laws of the land. So affirmative action benefits white folks more than any group. Just like welfare and all this stuff. There's more white people on welfare than black people. There are more white folks, you think about the drug uses in this country. There's more white people on drugs getting high, ODing. Look at where Bernie Sanders from. Vermont leads the nation in getting high in many ways. I think with heroin overdose and stuff like that. So, truth be told, white on white crime is worse than black on black crime. White on white crime caused drug epidemics, financial market meltdowns, world wars, global warming. That's white on white crime. Okay, so do you tell a person who got a way of thinking about black folks as having it easy in this world or in this country? Think again. And the tragic loss of Fred Hampton illustrates my point. Because when people talk about Laquan McDonald and all this stuff that happened in Chicago, the young brother who got killed in front of the Burger King by the Chicago cops, this ain't nothing new. And I think a lot of our people are being lost. A lot of our young black people are being lost because they don't know this history. There's a lot of older people that don't know the history, which is unfortunate. But this history is very real. See, we got to understand something. This system does not benefit black people in no which way or other. Because you're not allowed to be a human being. You're just cannon fodder for white supremacy racism. They won't allow you to get justice in their courts because it's just us. There's no justice for a people that's not recognized as a people. There's no justice for a people that have no knowledge of self. Because when you realize knowledge of self, you realize that they can't never give you justice. That you can only get it for yourself. Nobody can ever give you freedom. You can only get it for yourself. So with Chairman Fred, I'm getting back to my point with Chairman Fred. And then like what Harold Washington, one of his advisors, said, this white man, he said in the 60s, they made it their point to kill the right ones. Right? You know, because J. Edgar Hoover had this memo about the black messiah. Fred Hampton was a black messiah. He was the fear that he would be able to unite black people of all backgrounds against this system, white supremacy, racism. You understand? So Fred Hampton did not come from the ghettos of Chicago. He came from the suburbs of Chicago. Fred Hampton was very articulate, very charismatic, a great community organizer. He impressed black and whites alike. People like Dr. King, as well as Jeffrey Haas, the lawyer and founder of the People's Law Office, who was a friend of Fred Hampton, a Jewish lawyer from Atlanta, went to school at the University of Chicago Law School. And he met Chairman Fred in Chicago. Now, if you look at clips of Chairman Fred, even though he was just 21 years old, he was a true old soul. He talked about organ harvesting before people even knew what that was. Before Dick Gregory, he already was talking about the black market on organs and how they were killing folks at the Chicago public hospitals and whatnot and selling their organs. He already knew that at 21 years old. And he was politicizing the gangs of Chicago. He was trying to connect with Jeff Fort and the Peace Stone Nation, the Black Peace Stone Rangers. Jeff Fort, the leader of that, and also the founder of the A.L.L, which is an offspring of the Black Peace Stone Rangers. He was connected with Jeff Fort. He was politicizing Jeff Fort, y'all. Jeff Fort could not read or write, but we all know now that after Nixon won the White House, that he invited Jeff Fort to his inauguration ball or to his inauguration parties. Jeff Fort, a brother from the south side of Chicago, west side, whatever, of Chicago, who could not even read and write, a functional illiterate. A functional illiterate, y'all. Fast forward to Freeway Ricky Ross. The real Ricky Ross. The real Rick Ross. Ricky Ross rather could not read or write either. He was gifted in tennis, but he could not read or write when he was in high school. But yet, the white folks want you to believe that he's responsible for the drug epidemic, the crack epidemic of the 80s by himself. In reality, he had government sponsors. Now, I want to do y'all a favor because I'm giving you all this stuff. I know I'm talking about Fred Hampton, but all this stuff is related. It's all unified, right? So look up Mena, Arkansas. Bill Clinton, Mena, Arkansas. Mena, Arkansas was a place, a little town in Arkansas where the CIA had an airport. And they would bring in drugs from South America, Latin America, whatever, into Mena, Arkansas to distribute around the country. It was a CIA pilot, Barry Seal. He became a witness for the government. He was in the Federal Witness Protection Program. He was one of the big, I guess you call them cocaine cowboys. He was the one bringing in drugs to the CIA from South America. And he was assassinated down in Baton Rouge outside a laundromat back in the 80s. But there's a movie that was created by HBO. I think he had Dennis Hopper in the movie playing the role of Barry Seal. Maybe it could have been somebody else, I forgot. But look it up. And that was during the time that Bill Clinton was governor of Arkansas. Bill Clinton came from Hope Hot Springs. He grew up in Hot Springs, Arkansas, right? He came from Hope, Arkansas. That's right next to Hot Springs. Hot Springs was a hot bed for gangster activity. All the top gangsters in the country used to vacation Hot Springs for they go for the gambling, for the water, for the prostitutes, everything. This was Vegas before Vegas. Hot Springs was, and the person who ran Hot Springs unofficially was a guy named Oni Madden. Oni Madden was a guy who used to run the Cotton Club up in New York. He was an Irish gangster, Irish American gangster. His nickname was the Killer. But when he quote unquote retired from his activities up in New York running the Cotton Club and whatnot, he moved down to Hot Springs, Arkansas. So Hot Springs, Arkansas is also the place where they caught Lucky Luciano, the father of the American La Cosa Nostra, of the American Mafia. He's like, Lucky Luciano is to organized crime what George Washington is to America. He is the architect and founder of organized crime. When he was on the run from the government or from the authorities, he was caught down there in Hot Springs back in the 30s. Like I said, Hot Springs was gangster parties central. Al Capone, Meyer Lansky, Bugsy Siegel, any gangster you could think of from that era used to vacation down to Hot Springs, Arkansas. And this is the place that gives us Bill Clinton. Now, when I ask you all this stuff or tell you these things, it's not that I'm trying to show off for you all. I'm just trying to help y'all get more illuminated, or use your melanin, use your pineal gland, open it up, your third eye, because there's more than meets the eye. Like Einstein said, your imagination is more powerful than knowledge, so use it and connect the dots. Connect the dots, la 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 la. Okay, but Fred Hampton, so he was trying to connect with Jeff Fort to organize the gangs of Chicago. He was calling the gangs tribes, and he said it was my Rainbow Coalition. So when we think about the Rainbow Coalition, we normally associated that with Reverend Jesse Jackson, but actually it was Chairman Fred Hampton Sr. who used to coin the phrase Rainbow Coalition to describe what he was doing with the black, white, Latino gangs in Chicago. Whether it be the Weatherman, the Young Patriots, whatever, or the Young Lords or the Black Peace Stone Rangers, Fred Hampton was very effective in politicizing the street gangs of Chicago, which represented a threat to the status quo. He made a lot of powerful enemies in the mayor office as well as in the state attorney office. He was already in the crosshairs of the FBI. Because I said they knew about this guy for almost 5 or 6 years before he was killed at the age of 21. So what the FBI did, like they did with the Nation of Islam, they caused a schism between Chairman Fred and Jeff Fort. They started sending, letters to Jeff Fort and the Chairman Fred. They sent letters that the Jeff Fort, like I said, Jeff Fort couldn't read or write. But they were sending stuff to him, letting him know that, Chairman Fred trying to take over the Black Peace Stone Nation. Chairman Fred is trying to get you knocked off. And and then I was saying stuff that, Chairman Fred, Jeff Fort trying to get you knocked out. There's a hit out in your life. So they were putting all this disinformation in the ears of these powerful, charismatic men. They're putting all this disinformation, so it caused a rift between the Black Panthers and the Black Peace Stone Rangers. Imagine if those brothers were able to come together. Imagine if they were allowed to mature into their leadership, into their adulthood, working together. Imagine how Chicago would look different 50 years later if they were allowed to come into maturity. Like you can see what's going on. They call it Chirac, West Side, South Side. Imagine if these brothers were allowed to mature and to work together. This is why they had to get eliminated, because Black Power is anytime it represents unity and solidarity. So you don't have to have every black person getting together to have Black Power. You just gotta have 2 or more black people agreeing on something, agreeing to work together to be a threat to the whole system of white supremacy, racism. White power, or the system that we are currently in, this matrix as you will, is based on divide and conquer. Because white people have a fear of genetic annihilation. Okay, they have a fear, so they use war, they use greed, they use genocide, they use all these weapons against humanity to stay in power, because they out of tune with nature. See, Black Power, black people, we got a connection to the universe, to nature. A lot of us have not recognized it. We forgot about it because we moved to these city plantations. But we have a special way of communicating with the universe through our beings, through our melanin, through our pineal gland, through all this stuff. But that's another story. But Fred Hampton, you see, is not the exception to the rule. There are a lot of Fred Hamptons out there, and a lot of Malcolms out there, a lot of Kings and Marcus Garveys out there. But the thing about it is, like I said, white supremacy is ran through divide and conquer and the dumbing down of people. See, the real white people know who black people are, but they keep their knowledge of self at bay. They keep it hard for you to decipher. But now it's a new day. It's a new day, and people are waking up. But Fred Hampton, you understand, he was a threat to the system. That's why they killed him the way he did. They actually used a black cop to deliver the kill shot to the head to make sure he was dead, because some of the cops said he's going to survive, and they got a black cop to pull the trigger to shoot him in the head that killed him. And he said, well, not anymore. The nigga's gone. So people should have known what happened to Fred Hampton. Should also know that what happened to Laquan McDonald ain't unusual in Chicago. Chicago is a vicious place in terms of, like, police brutality. It was a mayor, Anton Cermak. This the mayor, before the Daily Machine. He actually was the one that came up with the blueprint for the Daily Machine, because he was all about uniting the different ethnic groups in Chicago together to become the mayor of Chicago. He was very charismatic, and he was ruthless himself. And he wanted to take over organized crime in Chicago. So what he tried to do, he got members of his police security detail to pay Frank Nitti, who was the mob boss after Al Capone of the outfit, a visit. So they paid Frank Nitti a visit, and they shot him up. But fortunate for him, he survived. But unfortunate for Cermak is that Frank Nitti survived. So Cermak was down in Miami about March 1933 with Franklin Roosevelt. Franklin Roosevelt was just elected in 1932 president of the United States. And back in those days, the inauguration was held in March. So he was down there touring Miami with Franklin Roosevelt in the car. And then he was shot at. He was shot by this guy named Giuseppe Zangara. This Italian immigrant and anarchist. And he was allegedly aiming at FDR, Franklin Roosevelt. But the conspiracy theorists, and according to certain organized crime figures like Sam Giancana and Lucky Luciano, that Giuseppe Zangara was a mafia hitman, and his job was to kill Anton Cermak and not Franklin Roosevelt, because Anton Cermak tried to take over organized crime in Chicago, and he almost killed Frank Nitti. So that was like payback. So Anton Cermak ended up dying not too long thereafter. So this does a little bit let you know. Even now with the St. Valentine's Day massacre, there's new information that has been put out suggesting that it was Chicago Police Department that actually organized the St. Valentine's Day massacre, and not Al Capone. Let me repeat. It was Chicago Police Department allegedly that organized the St. Valentine's Day massacre, and not Al Capone. You can research that on your own as well. I had actually interviewed Al Capone's great niece, Deidre Marie Capone, I believe her name, and you can find it in the archives. But anyway, yeah, Fred Hampton was killed, but unlike Laquan McDonald family, the family had to fight hard for the $1.85 million that they were eventually awarded from the state, like quote unquote awarded. This is back in the early 80s. I think it was $1.85 million settlement, and it took them about 12 years to get it, of going through the case. And I actually have an interview with Jeffrey Haas, the lawyer of Fred Hampton, the founder of the People's Law Office. He actually founded the People's Law Office in being inspired by Fred Hampton. That would inspire him to found the People's Law Office up in Chicago. But I interviewed Jeffrey Haas. You can look up that in the archives as well. So, and also I want to tell y'all what happened to Chairman Fred Hampton Sr.'s bodyguard, William O'Neill, the one who provided the blueprint to the FBI, to the apartment where Chairman Fred was staying, the one who put the sleeping pills or whatnot in Chairman Fred's last meal. He actually was consumed by the guilt of what he did. He found out when he was spying on Chairman Fred and trying to undermine Chairman Fred that Chairman Fred was a real decent human being who's very sincere about serving and loving black people. So he had such great guilt about his involvement in the crucifixion, the assassination, the lynching of Fred Hampton Sr. by the state. You can actually see him. He was interviewed in the award-winning, groundbreaking, innovative series Eyes on the Prize. He was actually interviewed, and it's like he was expressing remorse and guilt about his involvement. And not long after that interview, or his part in that documentary, he allegedly ran across the expressway in Chicago and was hit by oncoming traffic. So he basically committed quote unquote death by traffic. So that what happened to him. So that's important to note that, because karma is a bitch when she wants to be. And also there's some other things I want to note as well before I leave you all. But I hope I've been doing a good job. But I'm gonna leave y'all with some thoughts. You know, I'm a thought provocateur first and foremost. Yesterday it was Fred Hampton. Today is San Bernardino. What is tomorrow? What is tomorrow? If the state can conspire to kill a 21-year-old in his sleep next to his pregnant fiancée, then there is nothing that they won't do to get what they want. Remember that, y'all. What's the difference between Anita Alvarez, the current Illinois state attorney, and Edward Hanrahan, the one who basically signed the contract on Fred Hampton? On December 4th, on this day, Fred Hampton Sr. and Pimp C died. Pimp C died in 2007. And Jay-Z was born. Jay-Z was actually born December 4th, 1969. So, did we win? Think about it. And you look at, when people talk about, oh no, I don't believe in conspiracy theories, and yet, we can't get access to the Kane files or whatnot to 2027. I want to leave y'all with this. Only the guilty have a need or desire to cover up the evidence. Once again, only the guilty have a need or desire to cover up the evidence. I think I shared a lot with y'all. I think that's enough for right now. But yeah, Chairman Fred, we should celebrate the legacy of this giant. Even though he was just 21 years old, he accomplished so much in a short period of time. Very remarkable young man. And thank God for the clips available online. We could just look up him online to see how brilliant he was and how he was so in touch with his time. Now when he died, they had his funeral. Over 5,000 people came out. You had Ralph Abernathy and Jesse Jackson, and you had all these people from different walks of life. Roy Wilkins, just all people from different generations and walk of life and organizations. They may not have agreed upon his tactics or strategies, or even with the Black Panther Party, but they knew that we lost something special when we lost Chairman Fred Hampton Sr. And imagine how many Chairman Fred Hampton Sr.'s are getting assassinated every day in the streets of Chicago. Think about what would have happened if Chairman Fred was able to unite with brothers like Jeff Ford and Larry Hoover, how Chicago would be different today. If they were allowed to live out their years serving the people. Like I said, getting back to Jeff Ford, I talked to the Honorable Brother Dick Gregory. He talked about how Jeff Ford and them was supplied weapons by the government. How these gangs were invented actually invented in the University of Chicago. Invented the gangs, all right? And how the Bloods and the Crips were supposed to be the brown shirts of America. You know anything about the SA brown shirts? These are the people that brought Hitler into power. The thugs that was killing people. Like Biggie said, don't you know that bad boys move in silence and violence? Take it from your highness. So who taught Hitler how to do the things he did? America. And that's another, topic altogether. But I just want to talk about Chairman Fred a little bit and put it in your ear, because I had a chance. I was at the grocery store. I was leaving the grocery store. I talked to a young man. He's a security guard, whatnot. And he was telling me his story, man. Cause I meet these people now. It's funny. I meet a lot of brothers out here, and they ready to do something. Like the melanin is speaking. They speaking like to the ancestors through the melanin, and they ready to do some stuff. And so I was talking to this brother for almost 2 hours, and I mentioned Fred Hampton. He never heard of Fred Hampton, but he wrote it down, and he went to look it up. You know, he was going to look it up. See, that's how powerful we are. Information is power. Bad information can lead to bad power. Good information can lead to good power. Knowledge is the currency of the universe. So I didn't want to put that out there, but you can look at my archives. I got a lot of Chairman Fred stuff out here. I spoke to his brother, his lawyer. I spoke to his son. And also, I had a chance to call his mom a couple years ago and tell her thank you for raising the type of man that Chairman Fred was, raising that type of son, for sacrificing your son for the greater good. You know, and to this day, Chairman Fred's tombstone in Louisiana, he's buried in Louisiana. His folks from Louisiana, they buried him down in Louisiana. His tombstone to this day is shot at by white supremacist crackers. It reminds me of what they doing down in Meridian to James Chaney's tombstone. The brother who died was Swerter and Goodman during Freedom Summer. They still shooting at his tombstone. It reminds me of Jimmy Lee Jackson, the guy whose death by the state troopers led to Bloody Sunday in Selma, led to the Voting Rights Act being passed. They still taking pot shots at his tombstone. What is it about this white supremacist that fear even dead black men? What is it about white supremacy racism that fear even dead black men? Think about that, y'all. You want to live your life to be more dangerous dead than alive. It should be every conscious black person's goal to live their life to be more dangerous dead than alive. And you figure that out on your own by any means necessary, y'all. So I'm going to put out some more stuff. Y'all know I've been on hiatus a little bit, but you got a lot of stuff on the archives on YouTube you can check me out on. And if you like what you're hearing and you want to hear more of it, please feel free to donate and tell people about this, because I got so much to give y'all. You know, I'm just trying to leave as much as I can while I'm here. So help me out, y'all. You know, donate, spread the word, subscribe, do what he do, because we all love you. And in the words of Great Duke Elton, we love you madly. Keep on producing and pushing.